You can live, you can laugh, you can love life with Sujay.
Hi, and welcome to Live with Sujay. We are so delighted to have you. If you have not done so yet, push that little subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and share it. We're so delighted to have you for our next episode. Today we're talking about a serious matter, Black Lives Matter. And I'm a black woman, and my life matters, the life of my sons matter, and the life of my people. And so we are here today out on the East End with two wonderful, wonderful guests. Willie Jenkins, who is now the co-admin for Black Lives Matter on the East End, and Maria De La Gloria, who is a historian, was also my neighbor in the village of Sag Harbor. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a busy time.
Yes, ma'am.
We were in a pandemic with COVID, shut in all these times, and then we turned on our screen and we see a knee on the neck of a black man. One in the many of historical instances that have happened, but finally America's attention sees what we've seen all along and believed. How did you feel as a black man watching that?
I felt helpless. I felt terrible. I felt saddened, angry. It was a myriad of emotions. It was like a roller coaster. And
you're the father of two sons.
I have two boys.
And so were you motivated and agitated? And what made the difference in this one versus 2016 when there were other two deaths out here?
I feel like with everything that's been going on, like it was a perfect storm for everybody to take rise and say something. I was going to say something anyway.
Yeah.
I always say something, but that's just me. I usually protest when I feel like something is not right. But I felt like there was a big difference where I felt like there was a wave of just everybody felt that way, and it's going to come crashing down on America, and that's exactly what's happening.
It's crashing down.
It's crashing down hard.
And Maria, you're mother of two sons. This is the show. We all have two sons. Each of us has two sons. How did you feel as a mom of two African-American men?
So, as a mother of two boys, as both of you know, you have two black boys in this country. Every day they go out, you worry, right? There's not a moment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't turn my cell phone off, right?
Never.
Because you always are expecting that call. But when George Floyd was screaming out for his mother,
yes.
there's a meme going around on social media that says, when George Floyd called for his mama, every black mother in this country stood up and heard his cry, right? And so that, for me, it's like your epitome of your worst nightmare, right? Because you hold your breath that it's not yours, but then you see it's somebody's.
Yes.
And I'm still getting weird feelings talking about it, right?
Yeah.
Because therefore, for the grace of God, right?
It could have been our child. You know, we say we have the talk, the prayer, and the cry. We have the talk with our children. It used to be the birds and the bees about their sexuality, they're growing up, their bodies are changing.
Yes.
Now it's, you're a black man. And what you do has to be different than your playmates that are of another color. You can be stopped, and then the talk, that's the talk. Then we get the prayer. We pray for them as they go in and out, and then we get the call and we get the cry. Have you gotten a call yet? I mean, your children one's a teen. Have you gotten a call for any incident?
Not yet, but I do worry all the time. My sons go to predominantly white schools, whereas I'm from Bridgehampton. I went to a predominantly black school. So I worry all the time as how they're getting treated, you know, is there going to be any discrimination? I worry about teachers looking at them a certain way.
Sure.
Nothing has happened, though. Their schools that they go to are great, and they haven't told me of any instances of any, racist things happen to them.
But you hold your breath.
I'm holding my breath because
Yeah.
I know growing up, I've experienced those things in the towns that they're going to those schools. So it's scary. It's very scary.
It could be any moment.
Any moment.
Yeah, my first time being called the N-word was here, on Havens Beach.
Okay.
And it was a call and a spit. I got spit on, and I must have been maybe 6, 7.
So we're in Sag Harbor, New York. And right now, we are in a historically African-American community. We live in Azureth. Talk to us a little bit about the history of African-Americans in this community. Because most people think of the Hamptons and East End, that it's, all the rich and famous whites.
Well, I think they're there's two kind of histories, right? Because there's been a black presence and a colored presence on the east end of Long Island for almost as long as there's been Long Island, right? People just started paying attention more so to these historical enclaves that have kind of developed. But if you really want to start looking at, for example, in Sag Harbor, you start with Eastville, right? And we had Eastville Historical Society, and that was the area where you had a lot of black folks and a lot of Indian folks and a lot of immigrants who at that point weren't considered white yet.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Because as white immigrants came in, a generation, they're now becoming part of the white establishment, but for black folks and native peoples, and that's not possible. They don't allow us, not that we want to, but they don't allow us to ever become American.
Was
right?
it predominantly Shinnecocks and African Americans?
There were Shinnecock, there was Montauk, there was another tribe. Do you remember?
So the names
I
the
don't
names of the
remember the
towns are
tribe.
really after the Indian tribes.
Yes, yes.
Exactly.
absolutely.
Isn't that amazing?
It's a funny irony, like going to certain towns and they're calling you something. I'm like, the name of your town is a whole Indian.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And
you're
I don't
gonna
even
call
like
me
saying
a name.
Indian.
Native.
I say native now.
Mhm.
You know, when you're old, when you're growing up, you're trained to say Indian, and then you
You live amongst the
interact and you
people.
live amongst the natives, and they're like, it's Native American, and I stop saying Indian. You know?
I had an interesting experience because we were filming here during what we call Columbus Day weekend, and I sent out a little email, and one of the Shinnecock said, we don't celebrate the C word. And I was like, yes, indigenous people. So really being sensitive to the same things we have to be sensitive to growing up. But tell me about organizing. When did you start? What was the first time you remember protesting, marching, and folks following you?
Well, I've always been a big mouth. I've always been a loud mouth.
That's
I've
a
never
good trait
been
to have.
scared to say what was on my mind, and I attribute that to my family. My sister got a loud mouth. My dad had a loud mouth.
So it's in the DNA.
It's in the DNA. So I've always been that way. But when I first started marching and speaking out against racism, it's about 2015-16, after the death of Alton Sterling and Philando Castile, where it was just like, this is on tape. This is not the 90s where I grew up where it was like shoddy footage. This is like, clearly this is on tape. Clearly they didn't have to shoot this man. They didn't have to shoot that man. No. Like, you know, you get kind of, used to and being discriminated against. You kind of get used to it, and it's kind of like, you're like lulled into like a sense of normalcy. And it's like, this is not normal.
Right.
It's on tape. You can't deny this.
So how did you get people to follow you? Did you say, I'm marching, anybody want to come? What did you do?
A friend of mine said we should march in Riverhead. A friend of mine, Vanessa Collins, she said, hey, we should march in Riverhead. Willie, let's organize this. I'm just known as somebody who knows everybody, or everybody knows me.
Yeah, your reputation precedes you.
So
Yes,
that's
which
why
is a
they
good
ask me,
one.
people reach out and they say, Willie, you know everybody. Can you get people to come? I'm a party planner. That's a business I have. I'm starting. So she was like, Willie, every time you do something, a lot of people come. I said, I definitely want to speak out. I always speak out on Facebook, but I hadn't organized any marches. So we put it together, and Riverhead was the first one. And how everything else felt behind after that was the protest went really well. But where I find that people started following me is I did an interview, and everyone said that I was very well spoken, and I got my point across very clear, and everything like that. So.
And you are well spoken, and we're gonna have to take a break right now because I want to come back and I want to talk about the march. And you also marched out in here on the East End, and we're gonna come right back because you might be marching. So take your humanity break. We'll be right back. You're listening to Live with Sujay. Thank you. Black Lives Matter. Stay with us. We've had back-to-back pandemics, COVID-19. And now Black Lives Matter with racist issues happening. And you are blessed, but you also can be stressed. Well, this is the book, Too Blessed to Be Stressed, Words of Wisdom for Women on the Move, that are scriptural steps to bouncing back from burnout or to prevent burning out. So I hope that you'll get it wherever good books are sold. It's on HarperCollins, and I commend it to you, Too Blessed to Be Stressed. How did you feel? First of all, thank you for marching as a family. Why do you march?
It's the right thing to do.
How did you feel when you saw the knee on the neck as a black man?
I felt like I was under that knee.
And how did you feel as a mother of sons when you heard him cry out to his mom?
It showed the reality of where we still lie and how much work there is to be done, and it made me sit back and realize how real it still is. It made me look back over my life to let me know that I've experienced it in subtle ways, but that there really was a louder undertone.
Is this a changing moment?
It has to be.
It has to be.
What needs to come on the other side?
The most significant reform, from police reform to education reform to policing reform, everything needs to change. And this generation that's out there marching right now, these three little ones, they're gonna be the ones that are gonna put the stamp on it.
You're back with Live with Sujay. We're talking about Black Lives Matter. You know about it, you've seen it, you've lived it, but we're here with people who marched and who've organized it. I got to march in Washington, D.C. I was at the nation's capital. I must say that it's more for young people. I got to the Washington Monument, and I was like, it was 100 degrees, and I was like, okay, I saw Black Lives Matter, I got to turn back. But you marched here in Bridgehampton and Sag Harbor. Tell us about when you first marched, and tell us the exhilaration or the feeling that you had.
So my first march on the East End was a few years ago with Belinda Castro, one of the marches that you organized. And
Tell me who is Belinda Castro. What was that story?
he was shot in the car with his girlfriend, and it was videotaped.
Yes, I remember. Okay,
Yes.
okay. And so you marched then, and now this recently, did you march in one of Willie's marches?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's we did Bridgehampton, and then we did Sag Harbor. Because Sag Harbor had a march, and I will
Yes,
say,
it was awesome.
I will say, with Bridgehampton, the first march I did in Bridgehampton was years ago, and to see the difference in the crowd turnout and the support.
So it's
This
young,
march,
it's old, it's white,
It
it's
was
black.
it was all of that.
Yeah.
Right.
It was a
Yes.
good mixture.
Yeah, it was all of that, and that for me spoke volumes because it's not always a mix.
Right. So I was listening last night, of course, to CNN and to other news, and they were over in France, and they said it used to be blacks and whites. It's not blacks and whites. It's everyone marching against racism.
It's just,
It's everyone. So do you feel it's everyone?
I feel like it's everyone. And I feel like it's about time.
It's about time.
Enough is enough. It's time people put their heart on the table and say, we're all human beings. This was a person.
Yes. Yes.
No matter their past, background, race, creed, color, they're a person. They deserve life and they deserve liberty like everyone else. And that's the big difference I see now. People were, before, they were scared to speak out. I feel like white people were scared to speak out because they may feel like, hey, these people are right, but they don't want their other white friends to judge them.
Right.
You know, and it's become a big left-right issue. Forget left and right.
It's humanity.
It's humanity.
It's
Exactly.
humanity.
You couldn't say it any better myself.
Exactly.
So now people are stepping up and speaking out and showing their humanity.
Are you a marcher, or are there other ways that you can also protest?
So I do it all, right? Because I think you can't have one tactic.
Yes.
Right, and there are supposed to be some boycotts coming up in terms of how you spend your money, and I think those are just as important. You have to
Yes.
have legislation, right? So you have to attack from every which way. Marching alone, I don't think is going to get the answer, right? That get the results that we need.
Right.
You have to have agenda. You have to be asks, and
Yes.
there are asks.
Yes.
Right? For example, this march is quite clear. They want police reform,
Exactly.
right, across the board.
Across the board.
Across the board. And so the opposition, or those who are saying or are not acknowledging the seriousness, can't say that what do you want? You're just making noise.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Which are comments that we've heard in the past, even though they weren't legitimate.
Right.
We still heard them.
Right.
But it's police reform is quite clearly
Across the board.
one
Okay.
of the top demands.
So when I was coming up, I'm a boomer, so different generation than both of you. So there used to be the saying, the revolution will not be televised. But we have a young woman who taped on her camera phone the knee on the neck. So this revolution is very much televised. So is technology the game changer?
Technology is very much the game changer.
Okay.
The deniability is out the window.
Yeah, these are things that have been happening for centuries
Yeah.
to people, to us in
Exactly.
particular, right?
As a
But-
historian, tell us a little history. Bring us to how we get to here. I mean, in a nutshell. Yes.
Okay, I was gonna say that's only a few minutes to do a whole lot of centuries worth of work, right?
Yeah.
But historically,
Yeah.
Black folks in America have been protesting and boycotting and rioting in some cases, right? Well, maybe I don't want to say rioting. Maybe I will say they have been insurrections, right? Because you had enslaved people,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Who said we can't take it anymore? We're not going to take it anymore.
But we've never really, and that's a misconception. A lot of people think that we've been taking it, and there's always been people fighting back. The issue is now it's going to be televised,
Exactly.
right? And people are capturing it on film.
Mhm.
And before, people were able to manipulate the numbers and say, no, people aren't speaking out protesting. Oh, that was just one or two people here or there, and keep it low. But it's not one or two people. It's never been one or two people. And now, because it is televised, you have more people joining that fight, and
Yes.
it's becoming a more diverse fight,
Exactly.
right?
That's the key.
And that's
That is
kind of
the
what's shifting, I
Exactly.
think, the tides a little bit.
So we have economic injustice, we have environmental racism, we certainly have
Health
disparities. Where do you feel you make the best contribution? Is the protest your contribution?
Protests are great,
Mm-hmm.
but that we know that's not going to get the job done.
So what's after the march
What's
for you?
after it is organizing and actually getting groups together and making change, making legislator.
Mhm.
I'm a big mouth. People follow me, so
Mhm.
hey, follow me to the voting booth.
Okay.
That's where
Yes.
we're
Okay,
going
say
to
that
make the
again,
change.
yes.
Follow me to the voting booth. We have an election coming up on the 23rd, Tuesday. Get out there and vote. Find out who the candidates are. Find out their agendas. Find out if they're a good person or not. You can see that. You know that. Vote the right people.
Exactly.
Because
Exactly.
early voting is going on right now.
Exactly.
So,
What's your contribution? You've marched, you're a mother of sons, you're a historian. What's your contribution?
so I see it as a changing contribution, right? So,
Okay.
so one is educating folks.
Mhm.
I can say I have probably never been as proud as when my son said, "There's a march in the city, Mom." He's like, "All right, we're going." Because I've taken them all when Tamir Rice was killed, and we were living in D.C. and we marched in D.C. and so he said, "Nah, me and my friends are going. We have it all laid out." And for him to have already planned to go,
Yes.
right, and to be active and to participate on his own, told me I did good.
Yeah,
right?
you did.
Right,
You did.
in terms of preparing them. So education is part, and supporting the ones that are taking the lead. People always talk about we didn't have a leader, that's what was wrong with movements now, but leaders have always emerged, right?
Exactly.
From within, and when you see them, you support them any which way you can.
Mm-hmm.
I will also keep my dollars
Yes.
in my community,
Mhm.
right?
Exactly.
And
Circulate.
places that don't respect our money don't get my money.
Exactly.
There are several stores that I used to love that I will not go in anymore. And, I'm going to badmouth Starbucks for a second, because in the beginning they said no Black Lives Matter apparel, right? But they allow for LBGT apparel. And
So why do you choose one movement
right
over
now
the
they
other?
have since backtracked.
Exactly.
But for me, that showed where their interest really was. It's okay to support this group, but not this group.
Yeah.
And if they didn't want to be political, how can you? First of all, how can you not be political? Everything in this country
It's
is
not the
political.
time to straddle the fence.
Exactly,
Right.
Not the
exactly.
time.
What's the message you want to leave for your sons? And I'll preface it by saying I was with my sons here when the Floyd case happened. And for the first time, we were able to, as a family, talk about racism. When you're a mother and they're in school, the age of your children, you can go and fight battles in their behalf.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're men and they have to fight their own battles. So we were able to talk about it, because one of the things that happens is they try to shame you. When you're being racistly, affected, they try to make you feel like you did something wrong.
Yeah.
So they were able to talk about things that happened in their life. I was able to say what happened in my life from the age of 5, I remember.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to say to your sons as they grow? 7 and 14?
Yes.
What do you want to say to them?
I want to say to them that never let anybody silence you, and speak up for what you feel is right, what you know is right. Follow your heart, be a good person, be an accepting person, and then spread that message. And don't let anybody silence you, and always remember knowledge is power. So you learn your history, and then turn it into wisdom, and then spread that wisdom. That's what I got from my father, from not listening. I was a hardhead, so I had to learn from doing. I want them to learn beforehand, so they don't have to bump their head.
So you have the knowledge, live it.
I guess.
What message do you want to say to your sons and young black men?
Well, one of the things I want to just comment to you, Billy, was your example is already teaching them. So no matter what you say, your actions are already showing them what's the right way to go and the right way to fight back.
That's
so
awesome.
That's something I think you should be.
I was going to close with that line,
I'm
but
sorry.
I'm going to say it again.
I'm sorry.
But yeah, that's good. But we want to give you your props. You really do.
Absolutely.
What do you want to say to young boys?
So
Young black boys?
don't be marginalized, right? Don't accept the labels that people give you. Because the people are going to give our black boys in particular all kinds of labels. They try to track you into special ed courses, curriculums when they are as young as 3.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
And understand that part of growing and developing and not even being able to sit still has something to do with the energy and burning off. And you know, and you just have to figure
And
out.
it's not always ADHD.
It's not.
You're a boy, you have energy. You're going
Right, and you're
yes.
expecting people to sit.
Yeah.
Right, and some of these children come from houses where there's noise, right?
Exactly.
The noise stimulates me.
And a message to parents too, to look for places that have gym programs and that they can move around and not have to sit at a desk all day.
Yeah.
We're almost out of time, but I want to thank you for being who you are, for being my friend, for being my neighbor, for being a historian, for being a great mother, contributor to our society. But I want to say to you, you are leading by example, you know, and you are just a reputation has preceded you, but you're a legend in your own time. And I want to thank you for being that example for your sons, for my sons, for our sons, for our community. Keep on marching. Keep on doing what you're doing. It was my delight to have you, Willie Jenkins.
My pleasure. Thank
Maria
you so
De
much.
Lagorio. And it was my delight to have you join us today. We're live with Sujay. Subscribe, like, and share us. This won't be the last time. Tune us every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Black Lives Matter. And my contribution is going to be economic. We're trying to develop black women entrepreneurs so that we don't have to have the handout. We can write the check. GlobalBlackWomenCC.org is our new organization. GO is the only chamber of commerce committed to black women business owners. God bless you. Thank you for sharing with us.